In this episode, I'm going to show you how to double the growth of your detailing business in the next 30 days without spending more money on marketing, on ads, or generating more leads. And this is such a vital topic that you have to understand, because from this day moving forward, this is something you need to implement into your business. And you can find a lot more in-depth information about this, of everything we're going to talk about, inside of my Detailers Growth Academy. It's my all-access pass to all my online trainings. And a part of those trainings, one of those trainings is called Know Your Numbers. And that's when I dive deep into just have a better understanding of your business numbers, to actually understand what's going on with the numbers, with your finances inside of your business. That'll be linked down below. Okay, so how do we double our business in the next 30 days? And that's going to be by two things: improving your sales process. And for that, the second part is to increase your close ratio. Those are the two things we're going to look at today that could double your business. Because here's the thing: everyone wants to talk about, let's do marketing, more leads, more everything, right? We want to get as many leads as we can. The issue with that mentality is, let's say you have 100 leads coming into your business, okay? Which is a lot, right? 100 leads. If you operate at a 10% close ratio, right? That means you'll book in 10 paying customers on your schedule, okay? So if we follow that same math and we want to book in 20 customers on the schedule, like paying customers, that means you would need 200 leads in 1 month to book in 20 customers if your close ratio is at 10%, which is just like, your close ratio should never be at 10%. That's far too low. Even if you're super premium, high priced, your close ratio should not be 10%. That's too low. The next issue with that is, let's say you're spending money on ads, right? So let's say, I'm just making up a number, could be higher, could be lower. Let's say your cost per lead, right? To get one lead, a form submission, a phone call, let's say it's $30 per lead, right? Again, in your area, it might be a lot more expensive. In your area, it might be a bit lower. Let's just say $30 per lead, right? So to get 100 leads, you're spending $3,000 a month on leads. Now, let's say, again, plug in the numbers how you want. But let's say if your average ticket price, I don't know, let's say it's 400, right? So that means you made, to book in those 10 customers, right? Are you gonna do is take 10 times your average ticket price of 400. So you spent $3,000 to make $4,000 at a 10% close ratio, right? Now, a lot of detailers are paying an agency to run ads, right? So let's say that's just an ad spend, and then the management fee for the agency, let's say it's an additional $800, right? So in total, you're actually spending $3,800 per month in ads, right? So now you take those, you divide that by the 100 leads, and now your actual cost per lead is $38 because you have to account for the management fee, right? So now let's say in this example, you're spending $3,800 to book in $4,000 worth of work. So the way we double the business, and before I keep on going forward, your close ratio is basically of the amount of quotes that you send out, how many got accepted, or how many were converted to a paying customer, or how many were won, basically, right? And the only way you can track this number, the only way to track this number and to have an accurate look at your close ratio, is by sending out a quote to all your leads. Now, this is the very, very important thing. You have to send a quote to, let's say, 90% of your leads, right? Because there's some that are just going to absolutely be duds, right? That just, you could without, after a minute of talking to them, you just know they don't care not one bit about your services, right? So let's say 90% of your leads. So if you get 100 leads, let's say you send out 90 quotes. The reason why you want to do this is because if you only send a quote out to a potential customer who says, yes, I absolutely want to book with you, it's going to inflate your close ratio, and you think you're going to be doing so well, and you're saying, oh, hey, I'm closing at an 80% close ratio. But if you only sent the quote out of the 100 leads, or let's say out of the 90 leads, to 8 of those customers, then you might have an 80-90% close ratio. But if you sent a quote out to all 90 leads, you will only have an 8% close ratio. That's why it's hyper important that you're sending out quotes to mostly, let's say 90%, let's say 90, almost everyone, right? Because that will give you a more true, accurate look of what your close ratio is. If you only send out a quote to someone that you know 100% certainty is going to book, your close ratio is going to look inflated. It's misleading, and it's not an accurate way to actually look at your close ratio. So don't lie to yourself and only send out a quote to those that you know for certain are going to book in your schedule, because you're only hurting yourself. You want a very as accurate as you can look of your close ratio, because here's where you can double your business. Of those same 100 leads, if you take your close ratio from 10% to, let's say, 40%, of those same 100 leads, you are now booking into your schedule 40 paying customers instead of 10 of those same 100 leads. So now if your average ticket price is 400, all you're going to do is take 40, multiply that. It's super basic math. 40 times 400. And now you are making, I'm writing it down so I can keep track of what I'm saying. You are now making $16,000 a month. And I kind of lost my place on where I was because I just picked up a phone call. So I'm kind of lost where I left off. But anyways, so now you're at $16,000 per month with the same amount of leads, right? So now you're still spending $3,800 in ad spend, and now you're at least making $16,000 a month. And again, like, use the same math and take it up to 50%, right? So now you're gonna close 50 customers at $400, and that's gonna be $20,000 in revenue. Now, like, the mistake that I see so many times of, like, you know, trying to go using like an ad strategy, like paying for ads, whether it's Google or Meta, to where it's like, oh, okay, so if I spend $3,000 a month, I can get customers. The issue is, like, yes, it works if you can wait long enough to get to that point, right? Like, ads 100% work, and they can generate you leads, right? Which if you're closing at a 40% close ratio, you'll get 40 customers. The issue is, like, do you have enough money to get you to that point, though? You know, because if you have, let's say, $6,000 and $3,800 goes to the ad agency and running ads to get those 100 leads, like, by the second month, will you recoup enough money to make that next payment, or would you run out of cash? Because a lot of times, you know, you can, quote unquote, have profitable jobs, but not have a profitable business and go out of business. Because another way you can go out of business is you have a profitable business, but you're not receiving the cash fast enough, so you're not able to make payments on your whatever bills you have on the agency, so the cash runs out, right? So and again, like, do you need 100 leads to grow your business right now? No, this is why the close ratio is so important. Because let's say you have one business that's getting 100 leads a month, and then the other one is getting 50 leads per month. Let's say half the amount of leads, okay? If right now you're closing at a measly, and again, 10% would be atrocious. Like, there's something that you would, like, not just something, your entire sales process is wrong. And I say this, like, not in a rude way, but, like, your sales process is heavily lacking in a lot of areas if you're closing at a 10% close ratio. But again, at 100 leads with a 10% close ratio, you're only booking in 10 paying customers. Whereas, let's say if you get 50 leads, but you have a 50% close ratio, right? That means you're booking in 25 paying customers. So you literally have double the size in terms of, like, customers that you're servicing per month versus the business that has 100 leads with half the amount of leads, because your close ratio is that much higher. Right. And again, like, this is just easy numbers to go with 150, right? Like, it's, you know, whatever close ratio, whatever lead amount you have, if you could just increase your close ratio while everything stays the same, you will get more customers and make more money, right? Like, it's very easy and almost not lazy, but it's almost lazy to just say, hey, I need more leads, right? I mean, how many times, well, I've heard it dozens and dozens of times with detailers or other industries where they're like, oh, well, the leads are low quality, man. No one's booking with us. And it's like, is it really the leads, or is it your sales process that sucks, right? Because if you're able to, like, again, and you only know this number if you're actually tracking your close ratio. If you're not tracking your close ratio, then you are just guessing in the dark, and you don't have an actual baseline of what to work off of, right? So are the leads actually low quality, or is your sales process so crap? Like, you want someone to call you and say, oh, okay, excellent, I'll book right now, thank you, and book in your schedule. Now, those will happen, of course. But what about the other 80%, 60% of people that don't book right then and there? Are you following up? Do you have a sales process? Do you call, text, email? Do you call them twice? Do you leave a voicemail? Do you call back a week later, a month later, 6 months later, right? Like, are you following up with your leads? So a lot of times, the people that say, oh, well, these leads just aren't good, 9 out of 10 times is because your sales process is not good. You don't have your sales process dialed in. You just want everything to fall into your lap and to say, oh, yeah, look, everyone's booking with us. But as soon as they say, oh, well, not right now or whatever, or they give you some kind of objection or what have you, oh, okay, I get it. They're not a good quality lead. Nah, whatever. Like, they're not good. They're not a customer of mine. And again, so 1, you have to track your close ratio. 2 is increase that close ratio. And don't be lazy and say, oh, well, the leads suck, man. I'm running ads over here and all these leads suck. Because another detailer who has their sales process dialed in will take those same amount of leads and close at a 40% close ratio. Now, what is a good or bad close ratio? So this is going to be determined on obviously your market, your services, your pricing and all that, right? But a big part of it is going to be your pricing, right? So there's no wrong or right close ratio, but yeah, like 10% is too low, 90% is too high, right? Because let's say like, oh, and let's assume you're sending it to everyone, not just the one that want to say yes. You're sending it to everyone. And you say, oh, I have an 80% close ratio, right? You send 25, 23 of those say yes. I have an 80% close ratio, whatever the number is, right? That's a clear indication that your prices are too low because literally 8 out of 10 people are saying, yes, let's book with you. Now, if you're at a 30% close ratio, that means 3 out of 10 people will tell you yes. Now, if your prices are on the more premium side, you will naturally have a lower close ratio because your prices are higher. Whereas if your prices are lower, you should naturally have a higher close ratio because the friction of price is not there. Now, again, you can still have a low close ratio even with low prices because your sales process sucks, meaning the way you pick up the phone, the way you talk to them, the way you sound, the way you explain just isn't up to par, and they're like, oh man, like I don't want to deal with this person. So even with a low price, you could still have a low close ratio because your sales process sucks. And I'm not saying no, if you're on the more let's say like you're not the most expensive of expensive, but you are on the premium side of pricing, you can still float between 40, 50, even 60% close ratio, even though you are on the more premium side of pricing. So the actionable steps I would have you do is start tracking your close ratio now. And yes, that means sending out a quote to all your leads because this is the only way to get this number. If you do all the sales in your business, which I'm more than certain you do, and you're closing at a 70% close ratio, and then you say, man, I want to step away from the sales because I want to be on the field and manage the team and what have you. I want to get a CSR and have them man the phone, right? It would be greatly beneficial to say, hey, I've done 500 calls and look at all the months and say, hey, on average, my close ratio is at around 50%. They take over the phone. Now you have a baseline of where the close ratio should be at. If they're floating around 30 to 40%, you're like, hey, let's go over your sales process. Let's go over the script. Let's see where you're kind of missing because you're a little you're slightly below what I'd be closing if I was on the phone. If you see, hey, you're coming in at a 15, 25% close ratio the last 30 days, like we're missing a mark pretty big here in terms of what you're doing. So let's figure that out. Or they're just not up to par on the sales process and you let them go. Or you have an absolute, dog in you in terms of the salesperson, and they're closing at a 60%, 70% close ratio, right? They're a better salesperson than you. And if they're able to get it at 60, 70%, that means your prices are actually this whole time are a little on the lower side. So, hey, let's increase our prices by 10, 15%. Let's get that close ratio down to 50%, but let's just make higher profits because now we increase our budgeted hours, our hourly rate. But this is why it's so important to track that close ratio because now you have a baseline moving forward. Now I say, hey, on the last 30 months, I closed at 50%. You take over the next 30 months. Hey, you're at 33%. Again, like, can you fix something? Is there something in the sales process? Are you not following up? Do you just not care? You're not really giving it your all. This allows you to get a baseline of where you should be with your close ratio. And it'll change over time, right? Like if you double your prices, that's going to affect your close ratio, right? If you're closing at 70% close ratio and then you increase your prices by 15%, maybe drop down to 40, 50%. Maybe you only drop down by 5, 10%, and you just gained a whole bunch of profit while still almost basically having the same close ratio, but now you're just making a lot more money because your prices are better suited for the services that you're offering. You will not know any of this if we're not tracking the quotes, if we're not tracking the close ratio, and not using whatever CRM that you're using to do this, right? We use Jobber. We've been using Jobber for the last 4 or 5 years. Whatever software you use, whether it's Square, Urable, HouseCall Pro, whatever it is that you're using, you have to see how many quotes did I send out, how many were accepted. That is your close ratio. Plain and simple like that. Now, again, a big part of this is your seasonality, right? If you're somewhere where it gets like super, super cold, 2, 3, 4 months out of the year, your close ratio will be significantly different there than what it is in peak spring and summertime, where the weather is really nice and everyone's out and everyone wants to get their cars detailed. Like those will be two separate close ratios because it's a different season, right? If there's a lawn care business and it gets super cold and the grass is dead for 3 months, well, they're not mowing lawns those 3 months, right? So they're not going to have a quote unquote high close ratio during those 3 months because there's no grass to be cut. No one's worried about getting their grass cut. No one's looking for lawn maintenance because the grass isn't growing yet, So you have to factor that into it as well. But this is super important because if you know your close ratio, you can start to do a lot of things with this. Because now let's say you're not spending any money on ads and you're doing everything organic and you're getting, 75 leads per month and you're closing at a 40% close ratio. So what is that? It's hard to so that means you're booking in 30 customers per month, right? And you say, hey, let's spend $1,000 a month on ads. And again, let's say that the cost per lead is, let's just go with the same number, $30, right? So you can effectively generate another 33 leads by spending $1,000 a month on ads, right? And again, all we'll do is take those 33 times what's the close ratio? 40%. And you are adding an additional 13 paying customers to your schedule. And again, these are just made up numbers. You can plug in these numbers to have a better math for yourself. But those 13 customers, let's use the same average ticket price of $400. That's an additional $5,200 that you're making off of that $1,000 in ad spend when you know your close ratio. This is why it's so important. This is what helps you. And if you plug this into the last episode I made, if you watch the Detail Group video about your pricing, this is how you plug everything in to have a true understanding of where your business is and how much you can make and where you can deploy your money and the type of results that you can get. Without knowing your close ratio, without tracking anything, you're just throwing money to the wind and seeing what happens. You don't know if you're closing at 10, 20, 30, 40. You don't know if you're getting an ROI on anything. Like you have no baseline of anything. So that's why agencies, when they talk about ads and such, and just marketing as a whole, marketing is just one part to generate that lead. Once that lead is generated, that's no longer at all of the agency. That's why it always irks me a little bit when agencies will be like, oh, we helped grow this detailer from, $8,000 a month to $25,000 a month, which I greatly bat an eye at all those claims. Not that they didn't, but I can guarantee you, most of those detailers are being very unprofitable due to the basic numbers that they're providing. But aside from that, the agency or even yourself, if you're running your own ads or doing your own marketing, the marketing is just to generate that lead. After the lead is generated and they give you a call or they submit a form or they do a walk into your shop, after that, it's all sales process. So marketing is to generate the lead. The sales process is to convert that lead to a paying customer. That's why if you have 100 leads, but at a 10% close ratio, it doesn't matter what you do with the marketing. Get to 200, 300 leads per month. If you're at a 10% close ratio, you're getting 30 customers on 300 leads. And again, if you're trying to pay for all that and say, oh, I want the most amount of leads. Again, let's take the same cost per lead of $30. That means you have to spend a whopping $9,000 a month to generate those 300 leads to book in 30 paying customers. That's outrageous. That's why, if you're literally anyone, if they're operating at 10%, something is incredibly wrong in the sales process, because taking that same 10% to even 20%, 25%, 30%, 50%, that would dramatically grow your business without getting more and more leads. Again, the lazy way, the easy way, right? The easy way to put blame on someone else. Like, let's say you're hiring an agency and you're saying, hey man, well, we need more leads. We don't have that many customers. Well, again, if you're closing at 10%, 15%, well, we have to double, triple the amount of marketing and ad spend and leads for you to be complacent with like the amount of customers that you're getting. But that whole process is 100% on your process, right? Like, it's on you to book those customers in. So that's why the close ratio is so vitally important in your business. And again, like, the amount of detailers I've spoken to, the gurus that I've spoken to, a lot of them don't track the close ratio at all. They have no actual base of their numbers. That's why when we talk about like what you should charge or like how many cars you need to do, these numbers are such vanity metrics. Like, they don't have. They're not like a integrated number into your business. It's like, oh, to make $10,000 a month, you just need 10 cars at $1,000. That means nothing. Like, again, if you're closing at if you want to make 10,000 a month and you're closing at a 10% close ratio, you need 100 leads. How do you generate those 100 leads? You're gonna spend $3,000 a month to make $10,000 off of 10 cars. That means 30% of your revenue goes to ads, not including your own pay. If you need to hire someone to get a little bit of help, that means almost 60-70% of your revenue goes straight to ads, labor, and then what do you have left over? Not including all your overhead, right? This is why a lot of times, and I've seen this countless times, like with detailers that I've spoken to, is that the ad strategy that they have of how they're running, how much they're spending on ads, how much they're paying to the management fee, their pricing on their services, how they track the things, or the lack of tracking in their business in terms of their close ratio or their budgeted hours or their productivity rate. This is why it's unsustainable. You can't scale an unprofitable business. Like, you're just gonna go out of business because you're not making money. You're losing money literally everywhere. But because you see money in the bank account, you have a full booked out schedule, making $7,000 in 1 week. Yet by the end of the month, like, you're like, oh, where's all the money at? Well, it's because all these numbers aren't integrated together and they're not making sense of each other. So anyways, I'll end it right there. If you want to learn more about literally all of the know your numbers and close ratio and sales process, I have all of that and all the other courses like SEO for detailers, social media for detailers, detailing as business. All of that is inside my Detailers Growth Academy. It's an all access pass, so you get access to all trainings for a monthly cost of $100 per month or $99 per month. So if you want to learn more, that's available down below. But other than that, I will talk to you guys on the next one.